We recently published two expert buyer's guide. One was about full-size half-ton trucks and another one was focused on mid-size off-roaders. And you commented and you said, what about heavy-duty trucks? Well, this is what I'm doing right here, right now. For 2024, the truck you see behind me is the all-new and first ever Chevy Silverado heavy-duty 2500 ZR2 Bison AEV edition truck. So, how does it compare against competitors like the Ram heavy-duty trucks, the Power Wagon and the Rebel heavy-duty? How does it compare against the Super Duty Tremor? So I'm going to go feature for feature and show you how this new Silverado compares to the competition. The Chevrolet, GM, Ram, and Ford off-road heavy-duty trucks have something in common, and that is their configuration. Basically, all of them are crew cabs, standard bed size, so slightly shorter bed for heavy-duty, and of course they're four-wheel drive. And they share the wheelbase within about an inch of each other. They're about 160 inches long. So that's the basis for these off-road beasts. They have heavy frames, high-strength steel, they have about the same wheelbase, and they have four-wheel drive. But then things begin to differ. Well, the Chevy Silverado 2500 here, the ZR2, have something in common with the Ram off-roaders. And it's only available on this 3/4 ton classification size of truck, the 2500. And if you look at the Power Wagon Ram or the heavy-duty Rebel, they're not available in the 3500 series. This is where Ford differs, because in the Ford Tremor, you can get an F250, actually in multiple different trims with a Tremor package on top of it, in an F250 or F350. So if you wanted a little bit more payload, you should also consider the F350 Tremor from Ford. When you talk about any off-road vehicles, tires are primary, because this is what touches the dirt and the pavement and everything else. In the case of this Chevy Silverado ZR2 2500, they have the widest tire of any of the competitors. And they call it 35s. Actually, Ford calls their Tremor tire a 35-inch tall tire as well. But it's actually about 34.8 inches, just rounding up. But this General Motors Goodyear Wrangler Territory MT in Goodyear language is maximum traction. It's 12 inches wide. If you look at the F250, F350 Tremors, those tires are a little bit narrower, about 11.2. If you look at, for example, the Power Wagon Ram or the heavy-duty Rebel, they have different sizes of tire, but the Ram trucks currently are between 33 inches and 33.5 inches of diameter, so a little bit shorter, and also a little bit narrower than this 12-incher. So if you want flotation, if you're on sandy gravel surfaces like this desert here in Johnson Valley, California, you want flotation, so you want a wider tire, especially aired down like this. And I think this is where General Motors truck shines. All of these off-road beasts, of course, have a solid rear axle. In General Motors, you can get two choices for gear ratios, because you have two engines. You have a gasoline V8 or a diesel V8. And in the case of the Chevrolet, you get a 373 rear axle ratio or 342. And of course, you get a 10-speed automatic with both. So the axle ratio is not super important. But if you're getting a Ford F250 Tremor, you also have a 430 rear axle ratio as the ratio for their gasoline powered Tremors for Super Duty. And in the Power Wagon and Ram Rebel world, you're looking at usually at a 4:10:1 rear axle ratio. So they're all very, very close. And the Rams are using an 8-speed automatic, while the Ford and the Chevy use a 10-speed. Let's talk about driving range and fuel tank options. That's very important. A lot of these trucks are used as overland camping trucks. General Motors here is winning, surprisingly, because even though some of the other Ram trucks and Ford trucks have huge tanks in their dualies, as far as these shorter bed versions are concerned, the GM has a 36-gallon tank for the diesel and gas, and Ford Tremor, because of the shorter bed, has a 34-gallon tank. And then the Power Wagon and the Ram Heavy Duty Rebel have approximately 31-gallon tanks. So if you want a little bit more range, or if you're towing a toy hauler behind you, I would say this is a great choice, especially in this category of 3/4 ton diesel or gas off-road heavy duties. Now here Chevrolet offers two engines. You can get a gas V8 or a diesel V8. It's pretty simple. They're both 6.6 liter displacement, so it's kind of easy to remember. The gas engine produces around 401 horsepower and 464 pound-feet of torque. And of course this diesel is really torquey, 470 horsepower and 975 pound-feet of torque out of this Duramax. This is the latest gen of this engine. And like I said before, 10-speed automatics for both of them. The Ram's heavy-duty trucks, in my opinion, have a limitation here because the Power Wagon is only available with a gasoline V8. So you cannot have that diesel torque and driving range in the Power Wagon, but you knew that already. The heavy-duty Ram, however, the Ram Rebel heavy-duty, has a choice of gas or diesel. The standard output Cummins is available in that truck as well, which is a really great choice. What about Ford? Well, Ford also has some choices. You can get either a 7.3 liter gas V8 or a high output 6.7 liter diesel V8, the new Power Stroke in that F250 or 350 Tremor. And when you get that Power Stroke, the high output, that's 500 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque. As far as powertrain choices and trim levels, because you can get the Tremor in the Ford in an XLT, a Lariat, a King Ranch, and Platinum trims, so different interior options, different features. I think Ford is winning, first of all, the torque and power game. They're also winning the interior options game in this sense. These are heavy-duty pickup trucks, so they must carry lots of weight and also tow really heavy trailers. So as far as the ZR2 is concerned, right here, the Bison, it's available with this multi-flex tailgate. And you can climb it, you can sit on it, you can talk to your buddies right here in the back. The payload ranges on the ZR2 heavy duty between 3,300 pounds approximately and about 2,700 pounds, like this truck right here, this Bison. It depends on which engine you get. Obviously the gas V8 is lighter than the diesel, so if you get the diesel, you subtract a little bit of payload. If you get the Bison with the heavier bumpers and skid plates, once again you subtract a little bit of payload. But these trucks can be equipped with a gooseneck or fifth wheel prep package. So these are fully meant for either gooseneck towing or big fifth wheel camping trailer towing behind you. And General Motors is winning as far as just on paper, as far as numbers are concerned. The heavy duty Rebel is ready to tow just under 17,000 pounds. The F250 or F350 Super Duty Tremor are ready to tow up to about 18,200 pounds. And this one is 18,500 pounds. Yes, can you see that? They're competing very closely against each other. So as far as Ford and Chevy, there's just a couple hundred pounds between them. I think that's negligible, really. Payload is more important though. So if you are looking for payload, I would try to skip on some of the options and maybe like the Bison package. Although the Bison package has another benefit in the front that I'll show you in a second. But Ram is kind of not quite as capable, especially with payload. If you get a fully loaded HD Rebel diesel with a Cummins, you're somewhere around 2,200 or 2,300 pounds of payload, which is kind of a lowish number for a 3/4 ton truck. And the Power Wagon, even though it has dual lockers, solid axles front and rear, and it's super capable, that truck really has half-ton level of capability. So it only will have a payload of about 1,800 pounds or less, 1,700 pounds, and it can tow under 11,000 pounds. When the Power Wagon was on sale, like I said, about 5 years ago, it was the king, truly. I believe that, and we love that truck. We tested it many times. And it offered the winch from the factory. You ordered the Power Wagon, you got a winch in the front. And now Ford and General Motors are following suit. Even the heavy-duty Rebel truck has an optional winch. If you get this Bison package here on the Chevrolet Silverado, you get this AEV front bumper, which is all steel with really heavy tow points and provision for a winch. Yes, you're losing a tiny bit of approach angle here because of this bulge, but it's capable to accept a winch. The heavy-duty Rebel gas, not diesel, has a provision for a winch as well. And of course, the Super Duty has a provision for a winch. And they all cost different amounts, and they're not very cheap. So I think we have to discuss, first of all, some of the interior options and also price. Here in the Chevrolet, the ZR2 is actually a family of vehicles. There's a Colorado ZR2, a Silverado light duty 1500 ZR2, and this heavy duty ZR2. They all share an element of the interior, and they're all its own premium trim level. And by the interior, I mean, this is basically the only thing you can get on the inside is this color pattern and this design. And it has this lime green or yellow stitching throughout the interior. They all match. All the ZR2s have similar themes like this. And a Ram, if you're getting a heavy-duty Rebel, also has a slightly unique interior with special trim. And the heavy-duty Rebel is also its own trim. And this is where Ford stands out, because in Ford, like I said earlier, you can get XLT, Lariat, King Ranch, you can get a Platinum, you can get very different options and interior look and feel. So if you are a Western theme enthusiast like me, maybe the King Ranch is for you. If you're more of a luxury person, Platinum, Lariat, and XLT, you can save a little bit of money. So those are the choices. I kind of like what Ford is doing with their options for interior. When talking about heavy duty off-roaders, you gotta talk about the dampers, the shocks. In this case of this Silverado heavy duty ZR2, they're using DSSV damper technology by Multimatic. They've been working together for years, even starting in 2017 when the previous generation Colorado ZR2 came out. And this is pretty unique because it doesn't use the shim technology. It's using a little spring-loaded valves inside of this shock for a little bit more precise tuning. So the engineers that set up these shocks can actually modify either the spring rate inside these valves or the little orifices for the fluid to go through, and they can tune the ride to exactly what they want. Of course, Bilstein folks with Ram, they can do that too, but I would say this is a little bit more premium technology. Yes, it costs a little bit more money, or a lot more money, but I would say I would prefer this to the basic Bilstein that's on the Power Wagon right now, or the Ram HD Rebel. Ford uses no name, or basically their own shock technology for the tremor. They don't have a special Fox shock or a Bilstein shock or a King shock or anything like that on their tremors. And I believe that's how they're saving a bit of money. It's not that heavy actually, and the diameter of it is about the same as a light duty Silverado ZR2 and the Colorado ZR2. I'm surprised by this, but they're telling me this shock is resilient enough and strong enough to handle heavy duty. Here's the front Multimatic shock, and the configuration of these additional reservoirs is a bit different because of the independent front suspension design. And here's, of course, the ultimate debate. Is independent front end good enough off-road, or do you have to have a solid axle for perfect articulation? Well, I'll leave that to you in the comments below. Of course, a solid axle like a Power Wagon or a Jeep Gladiator truck would offer you a little bit more articulation and also pressure on the earth when you're off-roading. But there's nothing really wrong with this, especially for ride and comfort. So I'm okay with the independent front end suspension, and this is the damper that you get. And now, after all of that, we come to price. The current Power Wagon, which is its own trim level, starts at $72,830. You could add a lot more options to it and make it very special, very luxurious, technology laden. So these are just starting prices. There's a more affordable way to build a Power Wagon. Even for 2024, I checked, you can get a crew cab 4x4 Ram Tradesman, which is a work truck in a Ram lineup, and you can add an $8,000 Power Wagon package on top of it, which means lockers, special suspension design, and of course that winch that we talked about. That way it will cost about $63,915, and it's kind of a hidden secret. Not many people know about a Power Wagon package on top of a Tradesman. So that's about $64,000. Let's get to Ford before we get to Chevy. The Ford F-250 XLT Tremor with a gas engine starts at $61,880. Whoa, so it's already a little bit better than a Tradesman Power Wagon. Ford, though, can go all the way up in price into the stratosphere. I'll mention that in a second. The starting price for the Silverado ZR2 with a gas engine is $72,000 or $72,595. So actually, the ZR2 Chevy is a little bit undercutting the Power Wagon, the full Power Wagon package, but it does not undercut the Tradesman Power Wagon or the F-250 XLT Tremor. So that's pretty interesting. Now, what can you add? For the HD Rebel Ram, the diesel engine costs $97.95, about $9,800. The winch adds another $2,500. By the way, the winch is for gasoline only trucks, plus all the technology packages that you can add on top of it for a final price of $98,690. That's the maximum price of the Ram HD Rebel with a diesel. In the Chevy space, you could add the diesel engine for $94.90, about $9,500, which is actually a good deal. Then the Bison package adds $91.35, about $9,100. The winch is extra. I don't have a price for the winch yet, but with all the options, the ZR2 Bison HD will be about $97,155. So up there, but you see how they're competing. They're pretty much near the same level. The diesel Ford, the high output diesel, which is, you have to get a high output in the Tremor, costs $12,495, so $12,500. Ford winch costs about $3,800. And then if you get the Platinum or the King Range Tremor, plus every option, including high output diesel, you're pushing $100,000 in an F-250 or F-350. So I really like the value that the gasoline ZR2 brings, even though it won't have the fuel efficiency for towing, but it's a little bit more lightweight. You still have those amazing DSSV shocks and amazing capability with these tires and this lift, but Ford offers just more value. If you look at what different options you can get with the Tremor packages for Super Duty. My dream truck would be, I mentioned that King Range Ford. I really love that interior, and to combine it with 35-inch tall tires, rear locker, and a winch, my goodness, that could be a very special truck. Let me know which truck would you prefer, and would you go with a Duramax, a Power Stroke, or Cummins in your upcoming heavy-duty off-road pickup truck. And as always, alltfl.com is where you'll find everything automotive, all the news and all the reviews we do in one place, so you don't have to search around. Right there, alltfl. Thank you.